Xi Jinping, Biden could meet in November in Southeast Asia. Report: Chinese and U.S. officials have been discussing a possible face-to-face meeting between President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden, with a report suggesting that two regional summits in Southeast Asia in November are potential venues for the talks. I can confirm that the two leaders discussed a possible face-to-face meeting during their recent call and agreed to have their teams follow up to sort out the specifics, said Mr. Kurt Campbell, Mr. Biden's top advisor for Indo-Pacific affairs. Mr. Campbell, who was referring to the phone call between the presidents in late July, did not confirm reported details of the meeting. "We don't have anything further in terms of details on time or location," he said at a press briefing in Washington on Friday, August 12. The Wall Street Journal reported on Friday that Chinese officials are making preparations for Mr. Xi to visit Southeast Asia in November and to meet Mr. Biden. Mr. Xi could attend the Group of 20, G20, summit in Bali from November 15 to 16, according to the report. The G20 is an intergovernmental forum of 19 countries and the European Union. He is also expected to travel to Bangkok to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, summit, a gathering of 21 Pacific Rim countries, 2 days later, reported the newspaper, citing people familiar with the preparations. On the cards would be a possible meeting between Mr. Xi and Mr. Biden, likely to be held on the sidelines of one of the two summits, the report said. If the visit does happen, it would take place after the Communist Party of China Congress in autumn, at which Mr. Xi is expected to seek an unprecedented third term in power, suggesting that the Chinese leader is confident he would remain in power. The trip would also be the first time Mr. Xi is traveling outside of China since the country restricted travel in and out of its borders because of the pandemic. His last overseas trip was to Myanmar in January 2020. The meeting between the two leaders would come at a time when relations between their countries are under great strain over the recent visit to Taiwan by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Mrs. Pelosi, the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Taiwan in 25 years, had made the trip to the self-ruled island despite stern warnings from Beijing. China had responded with a week of military drills of unprecedented scale and intensity around Taiwan, which it sees as a renegade province. It also halted cooperation on a range of issues with the U.S., including military talks, a significant worsening of the state of bilateral relations. Mr. Campbell called China's moves part of an intensified pressure campaign to change the status quo on the issue of Taiwan. He said the U.S. will boost trade with the island and U.S. forces will continue with transits along the Taiwan Strait. "We'll continue to fly, sail and operate where international law allows, consistent with our long-standing commitment to freedom of navigation, and that includes conducting standard air and maritime transits through the Taiwan Strait in the next few weeks. But Washington will continue to keep lines of communication open with Beijing," said Mr. Campbell. He also called on China to reopen channels of cooperation with the U.S., saying this is what the world demands of responsible powers. Professor Zhu Feng, Dean of the Institute of International Relations at Nanjing University, said the fact that discussions are still underway for the two leaders to meet indicated that both sides recognized they should stop relations from sliding further. He pointed out that after the last Taiwan Strait crisis in 1996, when China lobbed missiles into the waters near Taiwan ahead of the island's first direct presidential election, then President Jiang Zemin made a high-profile visit to the U.S. in 1997. The following year, his U.S. counterpart Bill Clinton visited China. The two visits ended a chill in bilateral relations. "This latest Taiwan Strait crisis is a very stark reminder to both sides," said Professor Zhu. "The most important thing about a crisis like this is that both sides need to recognize the importance of keeping relations stable.